Today's episode is brought to you by FreedomProject Academy. Looking for a K-12 classical online school built on Judeo-Christian values? FPA is enrolling now for the fall. Request your free information packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, school.com.
It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello everyone, I'm David Fiorazo, joined by Katie Petrick. Before we get started, please hit that share button. You know which one it is, so we can educate more patriots around the country. Today we start in Colorado, where a string of elementary schools joined forces to promote a drag queen story hour to 3 to 4-year-olds for Pride Month, of course. And this is something that we never saw coming, and as always, parents were shocked. 4 Colorado elementary schools DEI groups. Let's talk about DEI. We've talked about code words in the past. What do they stand for? Diversity, equity, and inclusion groups. They teamed up to promote this drag story hour. Actually, it's a local pride celebration. But listen to this. There's the banner for it, the ad for it right there. The 4 elementary schools had their kids hand out rainbow flags at the entrance. Now, it was this town's, apparently, first annual Pride celebration, and that took place this past weekend, or a week or so ago, June 5. Special guest, check it out, Shirley Delta Blow. And I'm just going to hand this off to Katie because she has some interesting thoughts on Shirley. Shirley, you can share your thoughts without using profanity.
You overestimate my abilities there.
Self-control.
Yes, self-control. Well, Shirley Delta Blow apparently is not happy and satisfied in life as being Stuart Sanks. No Sanks, I say, to Shirley. But we have this happening all over the country because it is Pride Month. And so all of these communities, small town communities, as we like to point out, not just your big cities doing this. This is in Erie, Colorado. It's the Colorado Meadowlark Elementary School's Parent, Teacher, and Student Association Committee announcing that their DEI, as you just pointed out, committee was the ones teaming up with 3 other elementary schools in Erie to make this all happen. And just as a point of pride for myself, I would like to point out that you cannot have anything be a first annual until you have it be a second, and then it can become the annual, because if it's only the first time, you can't claim it to be an annual.
That's a good point.
It's one of those little pet peeves of mine where I have a little tick after someone says it, so it's the first, hopefully never again, Pride celebration. So if it gets to be next year and they second annual, then you can talk about it. But either way, the whole point of this story is to point out to you, Mom and Dad, that you in your little community probably has something like this happening this month, at some point this month. Did it already happen? We don't know. Is it happening next week? Take a look, because it's happening in the school or in the libraries. It's at the summer schools, at camps, just out in the community, and it's being put forth by your schools, even though school is out for summer.
Yeah. School's out. Shout out to Alice Cooper. Elementary schools, ladies and gentlemen. And the point we constantly make that it's not just in the big cities, big school districts. I remember we talked about Kiel, Wisconsin, and the 3 boys that were guilty of mispronouncing or whatever. That was 4,000, under 4,000, the population of Kiel, Wisconsin. And right here, I think it's 27,000 roughly, the population of Erie, Colorado, where 4 elementary schools are putting this on and handing out rainbow flags. Now, we showed the picture of Shirley Delta Blow, Stuart Sanks, a minute ago. There he is. A 3rd grade teacher from the Denver area. Did we say that yet?
No, we did not.
He is a 3rd grade teacher who's putting on a drag show where 4 elementary schools, rainbow flags are being handed out. And here's a quote. We tend to giggle a lot in my room, meaning in his school classroom, and there is always glitter, much to the chagrin of some parents. But hey, a drag queen is your child's teacher. This is what you signed up for. So Christian Van Woundenberg, one of the organizers for the event, said this: "It's so important to show queer kids today that they grow up and grow up and be successful while embracing their identity and who they truly are." All right, that's a shout out to or against the God of creation, so they are not who they were born as. AKA maybe they were born in the wrong body, so they were not how God made them. This is a shout out to who they truly are. And one of the most frightening quotes is when he said, "This is what you signed up for." And I don't think a lot of parents realize, Katie Petrick, what they signed up for.
That's because people haven't been paying attention. Parents are waking up now. What does it mean now to send your kid off to public school? Public school doesn't mean what it once was. It now means we own your kids and we are going to do what we want with our kids. That's what it's becoming. And so more and more comments like this, Stuart, means hopefully less and less of you in the classroom.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
I love music. David, do you like music at all?
Absolutely.
I love music and David loves music. And I love singing songs to kids because I have 2 little kids. So I'm all about singing to them. Not for anyone else because luckily the kids don't understand how bad I sing yet. However, I hate right now what is happening. Drag queens, they're out there infiltrating pretty much everything and anything and everything. And now it's the time for kid songs to be infiltrated. We have the official Drag Queen Story Hour boys having written their own, what they're calling their own children's books. It's basically they're just ripping off classic kids books. So, and they're getting the classic kids books and then just dragging them up. So what we have going on is, you know, the wheels on the bus go round and round and round.
Right.
And, you know, the book or the song, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. All right, 2 classics. Except you can see that the drag queens can't just let it be classic anymore. You have to make it drag. And so we have Little Miss Hot Mess claiming to write author children's books called The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, Swish, Swish. And if you're a drag queen and you know it. I have thoughts on this, but David, I would like to talk to you first about when you first saw these so-called original children's books.
Yeah.
What you thought?
Blasphemy.
Yes. That's a very one word and that's it.
No, to take something that was originally, well, first of all, meant for kids. This is very telling, though, that they're changing these words. They already know kids are going to know the song, right? They're going to know the tune, so they're going to be very easily sing along with this. Look at that. Look at those mock-ups there, those cartoonish. The hips on the drag queen go swish, swish, swish. And kids love singing that. Why? They don't care what the words are. They just know they can sing along with it, and they're being told that this is a good thing.
Well, yeah, and take a look at it. I mean, the blue dress is an entire beard. The entire dress is a beard, like the entire thing. And the hips on the drag queen go swish, swish, swish was actually written back in 2020, and we've talked about it on the show. But the new one, the second in the series, apparently, from Little Miss Hot Mess, is the If You're a Drag Queen and You Know It. That was just released. Let's just take a look at what Little Miss Hot Mess has to say about it.
Oh. Hi there, I'm Little Miss Hot Mess, one of the drag queens behind Drag Queen Story Hour, and today I want to talk about reading. I'm the author of the new children's book, The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, Swish, Swish. Part of what I love about the book is that it teaches kids what it feels like to be a drag queen. Really, it's a way of kids getting their hips swishing, shimmying their shoulders, and giving you a little bit of a twirl. so kids can really start to become drag queens in training. Make sure you buy a copy of the book for each kid in your life. A portion of the proceeds support Drag Queen Story Hour, and now is not the time to teach kids about Jerry. See you at the library.
So where do the proceeds go for Drag Queen Story Hour, and where else?
I wasn't even listening. I was too distracted by
Oh, boy.
all that was happening with that big hot mess. And what's happening now is the Hips on the Drag Queen book was so popular, apparently, that this new one with the If You're a Drag Queen and You Know It book got put out, and according at least to the Amazon, I guess, bio of it, it says, if you're a drag queen and you know it, strike a pose, blow a kiss, mouth the words, a fun sing-along book with a drag twist that encourages kids to embrace all the playfulness of drag culture, written by a founding member of Drag Queen Story Hour. If you're a drag queen and you know it, let it show by winking, shaking your bum, laughing real big, twirling around, and more. Join a cast of fabulous drag queens as you sing along to the tune If You're Happy and You Know It, in this playful celebration of expressing your brightest and boldest self. A perfect companion to the Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish Swish Swish, written by a board member of Drag Queen Story Hour. You see what they're doing.
Wow.
Obviously, the twisting of the words, the making playfulness, and be your brightest and boldest self. And these are all words that you would use to make a child feel comfortable and want to do whatever said activity is for this. So in this instance, yes, kids are going to want to shake their bum and laugh real big because you made it seem like, oh, it's just being silly and fun and playful. Except it's just making it easier and easier for them to accept all that is happening with the drag queens.
And I notice there are raving reviews
yes,
about this,
yes.
right? And you make the note here, I'm reading Katie's notes, I'm not supposed to, but you make the note that Matt Walsh's What is a Woman hasn't been reviewed by anyone, maybe one person, and maybe that was from a random site or something, but it's interesting. Of course, the reviews on this, they're going to be obviously glowing reviews, because they're all in the culture, the media, the industry. It's all in on indoctrinating. It's not just education. It's not just public schools. This is a culture-wide thing. Hollywood, great reviews on these children's books. Now, what do you think the average parent would get this for their kids? If you were neutral on this whole thing, let's say you're not a Christian, you don't have a biblical worldview, but you're really not, into changing your kid's gender either. You just want to make it through, get your kids through school. Do you think the average parent would say, that sounds like a fun book for my child?
I don't think the parent would just be searching for it to order it, but the bright, bold, flashy colors and everything that gets put on there on a bookshelf, if you go to the library, because Drag Queen Story Hour is the weird, creepy wink, because I can't do that. Weird, creepy wink said, meet you at the library, and the kids may pick that out before the parents even know. But hey, we want to hear more from Little Miss Hot Mess.
Hi, everybody. My name is Little Miss Hot Mess, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Drag queens, we are everyday people who love to play pretend and dress up as often as we can. But drag queens also are leaders in our community. And if you ask me, we make pretty good role models. And I wrote this book because I wanted everyone to get to experience the magic of drag and to get a little practice shaking their hips or shimmying their shoulders. The jewels on the drag queen go bling, bling, bling. Just pretend you're wearing a beautiful necklace or some earrings or something and go bling, 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 bling.
No.
No bling, please.
Nope. So clearly, Little Miss Hot Mess there ripped off Sly and the Family Stone, because we are not everyday people. Sly and the Family Stone, I am everyday people, but listen to what he said. We just want to play dress up.
Yeah, everyday people just want to have fun and play dress up.
Just want to, girls want to have fun, as Cyndi Lauper told us.
Ugh.
But apparently, drag is just normal, and that's what they're trying to do, and make it, normalize it, and make it seem like, oh, everything is sunshine and rainbows. But, since they're everyday people, another founder from Drag Queen Story Hour, Jonathan Hamilt wanted to make it known too that, drag queens, they're not the problem. They're the ones who are fine. Just recently released a quote saying, 19 students just got shot in Texas, and Texas legislation wants to ban minors from going to drag shows. It makes zero sense. It's a sad, sorry excuse for the lack of gun control, and that's the real issue. So Jonathan released that statement and then proceeded to say that drag queens clearly aren't the problem because drag queens aren't going into schools to shoot kids. When did we decide that it's appropriate to teach kids how to hide under desks and not to talk about LGBT people and histories? If people really wanted to protect children, wouldn't be banning LGBTQ education, it would be banning guns.
Can I make a quick point?
Make a solid point, please.
Approximately how many children, as tragic as it is, get shot or killed in a public school every year? About how many? Can you guess? Couple dozen?
Couple dozen in recent year, but not. I'm not going to throw out numbers, but nowhere.
Okay, we're not downplaying this at all. But when you promote the changing of your physiology, the changing of your gender from boy to girl or from girl to boy, they do that later on. Did you know how high the suicide rate is for kids, children, when they grow up into their teens, their 20s, their 30s? Do you think any of them have regret? Well, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds do, and many commit suicide, many attempt suicide. So if you want to compare the numbers, and that's an idiotic point, by the way, that's my 2 cents on that quote, but if you want to compare the numbers, the suicide rates are off the charts for kids that are confused about gender. I'll give you the last word because this is your segment.
Well, that's all there is to it.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
So we have some statistics for you since we were talking stats just before. The UCLA School of Law's Williams Institute released a new report on the number of people who claim to be transgender in the United States. And the New York Times, of course, proudly put those numbers out there with their own little spin on how you interpret the data. But here's the overall picture. About 1.6 million people in the U.S. are transgender, and 43% of them are young adults or teenagers. So 1.6 million total, and of that whole 1.6 million, 43% of them are the youngest people, which tells you just how much different life was like 30 years ago, before we had all the internets and all the transgender folk trying to make others transgender. And then social contagion. Here we go. So according to the New York Times article, the analysis, relying on governmental health surveys conducted from 2017 to 2020, estimated that 1.4% of 13 to 17-year-olds and 1.3% of 18 to 24-year-olds were transgender, compared with about 0.5%. Let me say it again. 0.5% of adults. So more than double, almost triple, of this very small age window, the teenagers to young adults, more than triple what the rest of the average adult population is. David, what does that really mean?
That doesn't seem like an awful lot, although it's growing, right? We hear the 43%. Well, of course, the millennials and those who grew up with this indoctrination in schools, but that doesn't seem like a lot in the population. Let me ask you this. Let me rephrase the question. Have you been able to escape the bombardment and propaganda of Pride in the month of June? It's Pride Month. Have you been able to get away from that? The LGBTQ onslaught in every part of our culture, right? So this is interesting that it's not a huge, massive part of the population. Was that a good point?
That's a solid point. Now let's take a look overall, because we are making the point that it's the younger generation that's identifying as transgender.
Yes.
Here's what the breakdown is by age. You look at the old fogies, if you look at all the ages and the teens who are saying they are transgender, is about the 10% of the overall ones make up the older category. But overall, in our adult population, almost 20% of them are 65 or older, meaning that there aren't as many older people who are identifying. It's the youngins who are trying to identify as being transgender. And if you take a look overall by state, they actually did a breakdown by state, and it was quite interesting because as you see, the entire average there, the 1.4% across the whole United States for the teenagers aged 13 to 17. You see there's about 10 states, there are almost a dozen states who are above that 1.4% average, but then all the states below it. And if you look at the adult population who is identifying as transgender at being 0.5% overall across the US, and you take a look at all the states above there, you know that it's going to be a lot of the blue states.
All right, before we go, let's take a little time to fill you in on some other stories we've been following. And let's start with a Willy Wonka situation in Pennsylvania, where 2 workers lived out every child's fantasy after literally falling into a vat of chocolate. Rescue crews responded to the Mars M&M factory in Elizabethtown after 2 workers fell into a waist-deep tank of chocolate. Attempts were made to pull them out, but they kept on wrestling and wanted to stay in. I'm kidding. The fire department was forced to cut a hole in the side of the tank. But social media had a field day with comparisons to Augustus Gloop, who fell into the river of chocolate in the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Who can forget that, right? Well, now that you've had your dessert, it's time for the main course, and one of the world's largest restaurant chains is reaching new heights to serve you up a meal south of the border. It's Taco Bell. They've officially launched a 2-story mega restaurant complete with 4 drive-through lanes and a food tube. Watch this.
Taco Bell just opened up a new restaurant in Minnesota, and it's unlike any other. It's called Taco Bell Defy, and it's all about speed and efficiency. It's 2 stories and has 4 drive-through lanes, but the coolest thing about it, in my opinion, is the vertical lift. Unofficially, I will call this thing the food tube, though. You can walk in and order on the kiosk, you can order at the drive-through old school style, but now at Defy, you can also order on the app and just scan your QR code when you pull up. This place is gorgeous, it's innovative, but most importantly, it's open tomorrow. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, go check it.
It's gorgeous. Well, the new double-decker Mexican restaurant is being coined Taco Bell Defy, and as they just said, customers can walk in, order on the kiosk, order in the drive-thru lane, or order on the app and simply pick it up, because apparently fast food still isn't fast enough. Katie, your thoughts? Double-decker restaurants, food tubes.
If it's Taco Bell, I just hope they have bathrooms on both floors of this double-decker food tube. Ugh.
All right, well, speaking of Taco Bell and what usually follows, New Zealand, did you get that, has revealed plans to tax the burps and flatulence of livestock in the country. Yep, straight out of AOC's Green New Deal bonkers playbook, New Zealand is looking to reduce the emissions of methane gas by taxing farts. Roughly half of the country's carbon emissions come from agricultural. The nation is a major exporter of meat and dairy products, with roughly 5 million people living there compared to 10 million cattle and 26 million sheep. Lawmakers say the plan would incentivize farmers to reduce methane emissions via additives to animal feed or carbon capture methods such as planting more trees on farms. The revenue from the tax would finance research and development as well as advisory services for farmers and therapists for the cows. Now, under the proposed plan, farmers would have to pay for their livestock's gas emissions starting in 2025. Katie, I think this plan is full of hot air. How about you?
I would like to know if the hobbits are being taxed, because this is New Zealand, and that's where Lord of the Rings was taped. So will the hobbits also be counted as part of the livestock, maybe?
Are there more hobbits than cows? Anyway, that wraps it up for this segment. More to come next time.
And there we go for today. For all of us here at Freedom Project, please stay educated, my friends.